All right, mate, how you doing? Welcome back to another video. I'm joined with my brother Seb.
Hello.
Once again, we are ranking things, but this time we're ranking people. We're ranking Premier League managers, to be precise. The active 20 managers as we're recording this, before any sackings may or may not take place. We're going to rank them in a Premier League format, Seb, from 20th to 1st, 20th being the worst, 1st being the best. How we're going to do it is there's so many subjective elements towards whether a manager's good. We're imagining we were hiring a manager tomorrow for our club, for an imaginary club.
But not West Ham.
Not West Ham necessarily.
A club.
And not hashtag at the level we play at. Just if we were a hypothetical Premier League club, who would we want in charge of it? We're taking into consideration experience. We're taking in the longevity at jobs and how much they've got left in the tank. We're taking in their character, how they can make players play for them, how they can attract new players.
Of course, yeah.
We've already made the Premier League together. We've listed it out. And we're going to talk you through our decisions and why we think these are the order of the 20 Premier League managers. Starting off with the bottom, Seb. Scott Parker.
It hurts me to do it, but I'm sorry. Of the current form in the Premier League, it's not looking good for Fulham, is it? I love Scott Parker. What he meant to us as a West Ham football team. I think he could come good, but right now, there's a lot of men ahead of him for me.
Exactly right. I like him a lot too. He could be a great manager one day. But if you're hiring him tomorrow...
Not for me, Clive.
Next up after Scott Parker, another manager associated with West Ham, going with Slaven Bilic. Again, a very likeable man. Did a great job in bringing West Brom up. But if I'm appointing a manager tomorrow, would he be my first choice? He'd be my 19th choice.
Yeah, he really would, Ben. I mean, it's a guy I like a lot. I really wanted him to be better than he was for West Ham. It just didn't work out, and I'm not sure West Brom are going to stay in the division either this year.
In many ways, his time at West Ham was blighted by the Dimitri Payet saga, in a good way and a bad way, but I think that it ultimately cost him his job, really.
He did great in the Championship. This is a Premier League appointment we're making, and there are other men ahead of him.
Having said that, Seb, I think our next one could ruffle some feathers, okay? The man that we have as the 18th in line for our imaginary job at Premier League team, do you want to reveal who it is?
Ole Gunnar Solskjaer.
Ole Gunnar Solskjaer.
Now listen, Spen, if you're naming babyface assassins to get yourself 20 goals off the bench of the season, he's in my top 5, but we're not doing that. And if he's not a Man United legend and being able to attract players off the back of it's Manchester United and the money they have and the size of club they are, if you just analyse what he's done with the teams he's had, yeah, I mean, he's had a few good spells and the rest of it is catastrophic. Right now, probably worse than ever, off the back of the recent defeat to Spurs. Yeah, I mean, I just don't think I'd pick him. Like, I don't think he's a safe bet for a random club that isn't Man United. He's not a steward to take you up or to save from relegation. It's panic stations for Ole. Ole's at the wheel, and I'm panicking.
The thing is, he doesn't inspire you with confidence. He's not a manager that makes me go, he's going to take my club from here to here. And he keeps saving his job for having these little purple patches, doesn't he? But the reality is, the Man United board are probably sick of sacking managers so many times, but they've backed the wrong horse, I think. And I've been saying this from day one. I was surprised last year. I was so surprised, actually, with the lockdown football they played, that I actually tipped them to come second in my Premier League predictions. Because I actually thought that front three, Greenwood, were going to really mature this year. And I was convinced they were going to do some big business.
Right, this is the thing. The Sancho deal not falling through is what makes me feel like there's still just a massive melee going on behind the scenes at Old Trafford. Because if Man United are back and they're flying and Bruno's got the boys going and Ollie's at the wheel and everything's buzzing, they get that deal done. But for whatever reason, that deal didn't happen. And I feel like it could be almost metaphorical for the fact that it's just not still happening at Man United. I thought it was, Ben. I thought they were back. They ain't back.
One thing I can guarantee, they will not have an era of dominance under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. He is not in the same league.
No, but I don't think anyone will these days, in fairness. An era of dominance is
I'd say rare. Liverpool are having one.
Liverpool are in one right now.
Now, they've had one, and Man City had a little bit of one before that. These days, a couple of seasons is an era. And it ain't happening with Solskjaer. They're not going to get back to the way they were. They might get Champions League.
What's going to work worse, right, is when we now reveal the name of the next man up and we're picking him above this. It sounds worse, but it's just the way it is, mate. But
okay, after Ole...
next? It's going to sound so bad.
After Ole is Steve Bruce.
Ahead of Ole. Why are we laughing? Steve Bruce, however, has, at lesser resource clubs, including what he's doing right now at Newcastle, he's performed better against his objectives. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's objectives are much loftier than Steve Bruce's. So yes, he's won more football matches. I'm sure people can throw at me points per game stats. I get that. But Steve Bruce has been brought in to do a job at clubs, and he's done that in the past. And he's doing quite well at Newcastle right now, under very tough conditions, what we're led to believe about what it's like to deal with the chairman there. He's doing all right, is Brucey. And I think, like, certainly if you're looking at a struggling club, Bruce is a safe pair of hands.
100%, mate. This time at the start of last year, I would have had him lower for sure. But what he's done at Newcastle with Ashley, with the summer where he was convinced he was going to get a takeover and probably lose his job because he would have been the first one gone.
Yeah,
and then obviously this season with bringing in players in the summer, he's actually done a very good window. We'll talk more about the transfer window when it's actually closed for domestic transfers as well in the EFL. But Newcastle have done really well with little resources on free transfers. So he's attracting players that are maybe not world beaters, but are making Newcastle better quickly. Obviously, it depends what club we're running, right? If we're running a Champions League club,
of course,
are we going to put
Guys,
Steve
you've got
Bruce
to
in
remember
charge?
this is a very difficult job to do because what club you are changes this massively. So how people view this, we're going to get pelters to this video.
Yeah.
No matter how we feel about this listings, there are going to be some people that think this is outrageous. And then we have to just say, that's fine. Try and have a go at it yourself, guys.
We're talking about
it's hard to list these.
Pound for pound managers. We're not talking about who's good with big players, who's good with bad players. Pound for pound, Bruce better than Solskjaer. Next man.
Yes.
Who again has probably benefited from a very good transfer window and a very good start to the season and got higher up this list as a result. Dean Smith, Aston Villa.
Yep.
I'm a big fan of him. I'm not going to lie. Again, last year, with Villa nearly going down, I wasn't sure. But, the board stayed with him, which is important. They backed their manager in the window. He's brought in some really good players. He's kept Grealish. You can't underestimate how important that is. He's playing his best football right now, Jack. And he's the main man at Aston Villa, captain. He's managed to convince him to stay. That's a huge deal.
I think there probably is a little bit of recency bias in our decisions here, but we have to use that because that is massively influential in any decision you make is recency bias. You can't ignore it, but we have to acknowledge it. And if they hadn't just got that result against Liverpool, is this guy maybe a little bit lower? If Steve Bruce hadn't...
It's not just a result though, it's the actual start to the season.
No, I agree. But okay, but that's what I mean. But if he hasn't got that result, if Steve Bruce hasn't got the good start he's had, and if Ollie didn't just lose to Spurs like he did, maybe they're in a different order. But those things did happen, therefore that's the order.
I also think it's worth saying there's a lot of people in the bottom half of this table maybe interchangeable after a few good results.
You could really change it.
But none of these guys are getting in the top 10.
None
of these guys getting in the top 10.
When we did this season, we both did our own ones, and it was amazing how the top 10s were very same. There's a few others
we had the same 10 people, not in the same order. We had the same 10 in the top 10. We both had Solskjaer in the bottom half, the bottom half. So yeah, that's how we've been able to come to this agreement, Okay, the next name... You could make an argument to have him a lot higher based on some things he's done in his career. I've got a lot of time for the man. I think he's a reliable, safe pair of hands. And I think that he's not in any danger of doing anything bad at Crystal Palace. It is Roy Hodgson, one of the most legendary managers of all time when you consider the countries he's managed
longevity.
So long. But funny you use that word because longevity now I'd say is work against him. The reason I haven't got him higher is purely because he's 73 years old. And if I'm hiring a manager for a new club now, am I going to go over 73-year-old? As much as it pains me to say it, I'm probably not. And it's purely because I'd want someone that can have a longer...
Not unless Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's your other candidate. And then you might.
That's true. I would go Hodgson at 73 over Solskjaer at 15. Yeah.
So Hodgson gets in. I think it's a good placing for Roy. And yeah, I do like the man. I mean, he's done good things with Liverpool. He's done good things with England. Has he done good things? No, he got the England job.
He didn't do good things with Liverpool either. He did okay things with West Brom and Fulham.
But that's ultimately why he's not higher. That maybe then when he got those big breaks, he didn't quite capitalise. So there are men ahead of him. And Spencer, who is the man ahead of him at 14?
A man that excites me. They call him the Alpine Klopp. Hasenhüttl. Southampton manager. A lot of people got a lot of time for him. I think when I talked about how Ole Gunnar Solskjaer doesn't inspire confidence in me, Hasenhüttl, he's a big lad. I'm not saying this is important.
I know what you mean.
He's got the stature of a manager.
It's true.
And he's doing, I would say he's doing quite well at Southampton.
The only thing that's there somewhere, it's a long time ago now, is that 9-1 defeat.
But look at the reaction.
I know, 100%, I agree. And look how well he's got out of players like Danny Ings. He's got some of the Southampton players playing brilliantly. And I like the system they play. I like their team now. But that's there. So that's why he's probably 14 and not higher.
Yeah, Hasenhüttl's got a lot of potential.
Agreed. 13.
Southampton have got a good history of getting managers in. Obviously, Pochettino came in there, first job in England. So. True. Okay, next up is a manager who I would probably say is one of the most likeable managers in the league, and that is Wilder, Chris Wilder, Sheffield United. I love his post-match team talks.
Good demeanour.
Really good demeanour. He seems like a man of the people. And I think if I was making this video 6 months ago, he'd be much higher. Sheffield United, you can't ignore the start they've had. And they have to take that in consideration, second season syndrome. But I love the man. I think he's a lovely man.
What he did, which is unprecedented really, is to come with a promoted side up and almost change the way a lot of Premier League sides played the game with these underlapping centre-back things. It took the world by storm last year. Maybe he's getting found out a little bit this year. Time will have to tell if Sheffield United can remain a force in the Premier League. But off the back of his accomplishments with them last year, he's very worthy of a place. Let's be honest, the people below him as lofty as 13. 13's a pretty good spot for someone like him. He could be slipping, Spen, if they don't deliver. It could be in a bit of a blip. But for now, 13's safe for me.
Next up is going to be Brighton's Graham Potter. I've spoken about Brighton, maybe giving them not a lot of chance in this channel before. He's one of the man that is making me change that. Yep. He's very tactically astute. He tries to play a very progressive way with a team that doesn't necessarily have the resources to do that. He's got a great history of things he's done at former club Östersunds, where he had all the players performing theatrical stage plays to get their confidence and different creativity parts of their brain working. I think he's a new type of manager. I'm excited to see where his career goes. And yeah, he could be in the top half one day.
I love stuff like that where managers do things so different to try and get different results. I think that elite sport is at such a finely tuned balance that those little tiny things you can try, like Klopp with his crazy thing he did with Dortmund in the woods. Maybe we talk about that later. But yeah, stuff like that, that really gives a sort of romance to the manager and makes him stand out for me. So I'm quite happy that he's where he is.
Last man in the bottom half is Sean Dyche. Yeah. Now, a very different manager to Graham Potter in the sort of football they play, but he knows how to stay in the league. He knows how to work with limited resources as well. And I think that's an important attribute because most managers do have limited resources. Exactly. So I like the man.
I like the man a lot. Very robust. I think he's probably a good leader of men. The only thing is, Burnley have been a very, very sturdy ship. They are starting to ship goals. There's a leak in that boat for the first time. Now, it could be a blip, so I think he's still good value for his 11th position.
I think he should probably think about getting out of Burnley ASAP.
You could argue
he's not being backed in the window.
He can't really do much more with them. Like, he's overachieving them right now. So if you think about a managerial career, it's time to cash out on that success and get another job that makes you elevate, because I don't really think he can go too much further with Burnley.
That's probably what Eddie Howe should have done at Bournemouth, and he missed the opportunity. I
agree. I think he may have missed that window. And now he'll have a bit of another rung to climb back up the ladder again to get the jobs he was sort of in the running for. Dyche, probably, if we're honest, is going to be that sort of guy, the modern day, not really that modern, but the modern day Allardyce.
He is, yeah.
Where he's sort of that guy that if someone's in trouble, you can see, like, for example, let's think about it, like a West Brom getting him in to try and save them, or someone else, for example. But ultimately, he could still be in a relegation battle of his own with Burnley this year. You never know how that goes, which is weird to think. But for now, 11.
I think it says a lot about the man that he hasn't walked out on Burnley when they haven't backed him in the window whatsoever. My doubt is if he was to go to another club, has he got a plan B? I think he's just got one way of playing. Probably good enough to keep in the league, though.
Agreed. I think they probably will do enough.
Okay, into top half now.
Yes.
10th position.
Yes.
David Moyes.
Yes.
Discuss.
Well, people are going to look at this and go, West Ham, and I think, yeah, okay, there's a valid point there. David Moyes at home is probably higher than 10th.
When you say at home, you don't mean at the stadium.
Working from home.
At his house.
David Moyes working from home. His current stats are up. He might be top 3.
Fergie, mate.
But, overall, let's be honest. What happened?
That's probably what he was doing. He probably had Fergie on the phone.
Doing it for him.
Scottish.
Shout. Now it makes sense.
Of course.
Moyes is a good manager. Moyes is a good man. Is he massively exciting? Possibly not. But take out what happened at Sociedad. Man United was a poison chalice. What he did with Everton for years and years and years, and what he's done with West Ham more recently, with the team we've got, with the setup there is at West Ham, he's doing the job. And I've got to be honest, right now, the state the club is in, a man like Moyes is a safe pair of hands. If Moyes got sacked tomorrow, I'd be like, who on earth are we going to get next? Moyes in at number 10. People will scoff at it. I'm happy with it.
I agree. Obviously got relegated to Sunderland, but he inherited that sinking ship.
That was struggling.
And he's a reliable man, and he's not going to be the most sexy man in football or win you a Champions League probably, but he will look after your club. He saved us from relegation twice. Okay, next up, and some people will probably argue he should be higher in this list, but there's a lot of managers here in the next few spaces that are quite close.
It's tough.
Nuno Esposito Santo is his full name. We'll call him Nuno for the sake of this video. In at Wolves, done a great job, but look at his other jobs. He's not been there a particularly long period of time. He's been backed significantly at Wolves with this project that they're doing with their Portuguese sort of project. And I don't know how much further he'll take them, but I do like him as a manager, and he's in a good position here.
I like the team. I like what he's doing there. I mean, if he continues to do what he's doing with Wolves for another few years, he'll definitely be climbing up the ranks, undoubtedly. I think there's a few men above him who have just done it for longer and at different clubs, and that's probably a nice lead on to number 8 in the list, which is Brendan Rodgers, who right now is doing a great job. Leicester obviously did what they did in winning the Premier League. So easy for them just to have that wave and fall down again. He's given them that second wave at the moment, and he's obviously done it great. I know nearly took Liverpool to their first title in, 40 years or whatever.
It's a much worse defence than, and that's ultimately what cost him, but a much worse defence than what Klopp's got now.
Yeah, he was getting a lot more out of that team, and obviously won lots up at Celtic. So he's won things, and he's done it for a long time at different clubs, and you can't ignore that for me.
He's a man with a great character.
He is, and do you know what's an interesting fact about Brendan Rodgers? I think you told me this, and you have to go and look at it. The man He's 5'3".
Yeah, he's actually 5'3".
Right, okay, 5'5". It sounds better. 5'3". He's 5'5", which is 2.5 inches shorter than me, and it's mental because I see him as a guy of stature, and he's either got a very good PR team that run around taking very good angles of
very
photographs,
good shoes,
or very good shoes. Maybe he's got a good orthopedic surgeon. Orthopedic?
Yeah, that's right.
He's orthopedic. There you go. So I stand corrected.
Said the man in the orthopedic shoes.
So Brendan Rodgers, I think he's a great manager, man. I think he gets a lot of stick, or has done in the past. I think he's a pretty solid man. If you were to get him at West Ham, I'd be buzzing.
He's very good at replacing players when he loses them, finding replacements. Done a fantastic job at Leicester, backed by a great board. But if you know anything about Brendan Rodgers, you know the real power behind him is Colo Torre. He takes him with him everywhere. He's a man of great character.
Don't do voices. But yeah, I like Rodgers, and I think at number 8, he's I mean, you could argue for him for higher, really. But
well, it tells you how much we think of the people above them, especially when you consider the next man. Because in number 7 is a man who is in his first managerial job.
I'm still not sure on this one, mate.
Mikhail Arteta we've gone with. And the reason we've gone with him is likeable factor. Yeah, and that goes a long way in football. It allows him to attract players. He's started to attract players now that are, I think, taking Arsenal to a new chapter, a new beginning. And he's obviously got the learnings, okay? Let's remember, Pep's first managerial job was Barcelona. Look what he did there. Sometimes the learnings and experience can elevate you beyond people that have had 5-6 jobs. And he's learned on the job, and he's vital to what's happened at Man City because they've got a little bit worse since he left, and he's helping Arsenal. And yes, I'm not saying he's got the same credentials as all people beneath him. I'm saying if I'm hiring a manager tomorrow, Mikhail is getting in above all the other people.
I feel like he's got a very high upside. You could argue also he's got a lower basement, if you like. So it would be a risk. It'll be a risk, but it's a risk that would really pay off. And I think at Arsenal, that's the decision they went with in the end with some of the failures they've had. So, yeah, I do agree that, you know, if right now you get to pick a manager and it's Nuno Esposito or Arteta, it's close, but they're close in the rankings. Arteta probably does just edge it.
The man above Arteta is similar. He's currently managing a club he used to play for. Not his first job, because he was at Derby before, but Frank Lampard in at Chelsea. And I think not only the job he did last year with no transfer budget or no transfer ability, but also this year, the people he's attracted, are they going to come and play for a different manager? You know, if we had Roy Hodgson in at Chelsea, no disrespect, I picked a random name there. You know, Werner's not going to come. Havertz is not going to come. He's got star quality.
Yeah, he has been. And here's what I'm going to say about Lampard, because what he did last year with the limited resources was very, very impressive. And I think they're going to come good this year. I think the players they bought are going to do very, very well. But here's what I'll say about
Still not
Frank
sure
Lampard.
about them as centre-back. I think Thiago Silva papers over some cracks.
True. Potentially there is that question mark there. But the defence will strengthen now with the addition of Mendy and Chilwell. And I think the midfield being better in front of them will help that as well. But what I can say from personal experience is that Frank Lampard is a very good man.
He is. Clever man.
Very good man. He went to the same school as me and as you for some period as well. That's not the reason I'm putting him there. In fact, a lot of West Ham fans don't like Lampard. I really like the man. I think he's a great character. I think if Chelsea fans are patient, he could have a long tenure there.
Yeah, I agree. So up above Frank in 5th place, we have...
this is spicy, isn't it?
This is spicy. It's a great way to describe him.
Potato.
Marcelo Bielsa is a manager who tends to either really capture the imagination of the club he goes to and the fans, or it doesn't work at all. He's had a few very short times at clubs where it's not worked. Leeds clearly is a great marriage of manager and fans and club. That's working out for him. But what I like about him is he's probably, of all people, maybe along with Pep in the league, who has a clear identity in the way they play. He doesn't have, and some people would say that's a weakness, he doesn't have a plan B, but he really insists that his players play a certain way. And it's kind of like a mixture between Pep and Klopp. It's very high pressing. He makes his players very, very fit. He asks more of them than almost any other managers do. Most players say that they've played for him. He has this very tactical and possession-based game that he likes to play. And I really like him probably because I like the charismatic, like sort of underdog vibe. He doesn't look the part. He doesn't speak the language. He doesn't do the interviews.
Doesn't he like drive a Skoda or something? Like?
I don't know about that.
There's something about that. He just drives a random car.
Another manager who was in a country for 2 years and still didn't speak the language, I'd probably be quite critical of it. But for me, it adds to the allure of him. And this is obviously not a reason to hire him.
Speaking the language I need, football.
It's not a reason to hire him, but if you wanted a manager that did a certain thing, and that is what Bielsa does, he's one of the best in the world at doing it. If you want a manager that's going to definitely keep you in the league above all else, then you probably go with someone lower down the table.
That's a perfect way of putting it.
The top 4 is where it gets very interesting, Seb. When we know we've got 4 big names left. And this man is probably lower on this list purely because he hasn't spent as much time in the Prem as he has at other clubs where he's had bigger winnings, including winning the Champions League. The man I'm talking about is Carlo Ancelotti, who's clearly doing well at Everton after it's his first full season there.
And there was one period last year where Everton were really in trouble. And where they are to there to now is just chalk and cheese. And I think he's been a huge part of that. Some people did question mark whether Ancelotti was the man for Everton to take him to the next level, whether his tactics were great, but maybe they're a little bit old-fashioned, where he's proving them all wrong right now, bringing some great players, got them working together well as a team, better defensively. Yeah, I mean, he's got pedigree, Ben. When you've won things at different levels in different countries, you've got to respect that. And you go on recency, current form, he's flying it as well, so he's right up there.
He's also won the Premier League before. Yeah. And he could win it again this year. The way it's going.
Yeah, top of the table right now.
Top three, we know whatever order we go in, it's going to cause some debate here. In third place, we've settled with Pep Guardiola, okay? Maybe a very unpopular choice with the football geeks that love, what Pep brings. But let's be honest, Seb, I think he deserves some criticism, the man.
Has to get criticism. I filter between thinking he's a genius and thinking he's a fraud. I go between the two all the time. And I think he probably is a lot more of a genius than he is a fraud, let's be honest. The man is fantastic. And watching him in that Amazon documentary is amazing insight to see how he builds his team. But results matter. When you've constantly stuttered at the latter stage of the Champions League and you've been dethroned, really, with the amount of resources you spend at Man City in the Premier League by Liverpool, you can't call yourself top table. Like, what he's done with the teams he's had and Barcelona and Bayern Munich, been brilliant. But yeah, for me, there's just not quite that consistency in delivering results. He's an amazing manager, don't get me wrong. That's why there's only two men ahead of him. He's ahead of the other 17.
But for me, he's lacking the ability of proving that he's coached players through now. Like, look at the difference between him and Klopp. Klopp brought in Andrew Robertson from Hull and made him the best left back in the world. Pep in some cases buying people that are one of the best in the world and they look worse.
I mean, he should have developed John Stones into the centre back he wants now. Instead, he's spending 60 million quid every other day to bring in another one. Yeah.
I know Ben Mendy's had injury issues, but there was a time, actually, ironically, under Bielsa when he's playing in France, where Bielsa said of him that he could be one of the best left backs in the world if he applies himself. Under Pep, there's no reason why that shouldn't have happened. Injuries haven't helped, but there's a whole load of cases like that. If you have the blank canvas and you have the best club in the world, who do you want in charge? I would have said Pep. I would have said he's the man that would just get you the most out of the best team in the world. Yeah. I don't feel that way anymore. I feel there's other managers who will not only get you as much, if not more, will have players playing for him more, and also will use the club's finances in a better way. And that also is other people who are involved in those decisions. But Pep just has a blank check. He can do what he wants, whereas other managers have got stipulations on them and they're doing better.
Well, Spen, if Pep's at 3, I think a lot of people know who number 1's going to be. Number 2, he's a man that I have gone even more flippity-floppity on. This is a man I used to be obsessed with. I loved him when he first came into the Premier League. Loved him. And then I'll be honest, his spell at Man United, I really went off him. Thought he was miserable, moany. I've always had a little bit of a thought, is that for show? What's he really like? And when we've seen, whether he's acting or not, I don't care. When we've seen behind the curtain at Spurs, Spen, I'm not a Tottenham Hotspur fan, as you well know. He's made me like them a little bit. Jose Mourinho at Tottenham, when you've won what he's won, the amount of places he's won, serial winner, what he's doing at Tottenham right now, with the injuries they've had, he's right up there for me, mate.
Mate, it's not just about his charisma. It's like, and he has let himself down a few times in the past, for sure. And he's had, periods, but it's to be expected. We're talking about a man of a 20-year period.
Respect.
Well, that was actually very good. But I liked when he did that. You should respect him.
Yeah, it's true.
And I think sometimes he doesn't get that respect. Sometimes he loses that respect through things he does. And he's definitely been involved in a few things that I don't endorse, that I'll be having a word with him about in the interview. So you're not going to do any of that, are you, Jose? But he's also winning the Champions League with Porto doesn't get talked about enough. Talk about Leicester winning the Prem. Okay, that's probably a little bit more of an outside story, but imagine Porto winning the Champions League now. Just imagine it. I think of the people they've got to get through.
How many times have managers gone and done such a massive underdog story like he did with them, then gone on to dominate at the top end as well? Normally, they have a Cinderella story and then they get the big job and it all falls apart, right? He defied that. He went on and he's kicked on and on and on. And
he's won leagues in...
He hasn't failed, has he?
No, he's won leagues in England, Spain, Italy. He's won the Champions League for Inter Milan as well. So he's one of a few people to win 2 Champions Leagues in 2 different countries. And the thing he did the other week reminded me just how good he is, the Son thing. When he tricked us all in fantasy football, making us think Son was injured. Genius. Obviously, that's the game that he then wins 6-1 against Man United in. How much the Son mind games played into part, how much the red card played into part. He's made Tottenham a bit tougher, isn't he? He's given them a backbone. And even if it's things like Lamela going on the floor acting like he's hurt, it's the sinister gamesmanship. And you might not like him, you might not like the way his football is, and I will say that. He doesn't necessarily play the best looking football. But if I want my team to win, there's only one man in the league I'd go above, Jose Mourinho, to get in. And I still feel that way, because I think people think the Mourinho allure has slipped a little bit, but they're still doing it. He's still doing it. And I think he will win something at Spurs at some point. Maybe not this season, but the man, of course, top of the list is Jurgen Klopp. And where do we start with this man? I mean, he's the most likeable manager in football for me. He doesn't mince his words if someone criticised him like Roy Keane recently, but I like that. He stands up for his players. His players are going to love him. That was the thing people used to say about Mourinho back in the day. His players used to call him daddy, like Essien did and all this stuff. They literally were in love with Jose. I think that's the same with Klopp right now. Players want to play for him. They work so hard for him. That high pressing game, you don't get it if the players aren't committed and motivated. And what they've done business-wise alongside with a very talented backroom staff at Liverpool and how they've completely rejuvenated that club and made them the best club in the world right now, football-wise, with serious strength and depth and really good business. They've sold players for 20, 25 million. They weren't getting anywhere near their team and used that money to buy players that are 5 times the player. So everything about that, and it's not a coincidence it's happened under Klopp's reign. You alluded to things he'd done back in the day at Dortmund, where he also did a fantastic job. Anyone going up against Bayern Munich and challenging that status quo, it's probably tougher than almost any other country to do that in. They're so in control of that system in Germany, Bayern Munich. And yeah, I think I would just want him in charge of my club at all costs. Agreed. If he's available. And I'm really fascinated to see if he goes somewhere else after Liverpool. If he stays there for a long time, would he go and do it in Real Madrid? Could he work in that environment? I wouldn't be surprised if he did.
No, agreed. I mean, he's the one name that I don't know of any logical argument, other than maybe the fact that Mourinho's won it 3 times to put him in at number 1. But right now, I'd always want a Klopp running the team ahead of Mourinho. But the rest of that list, Ben, it's so open to interpretation based on your personal beliefs and things. I mean, I'd love to hear what the guys think. You know, who's the one we got most wrong in that list? You know, there's a few in there, like Ole. The Man United fans are going to go nuts for that. But there's some other names. What about some of the other names we talked about? People who've just left Premier League jobs.
Well, so Pochettino's a great one. He's available, right? And there's links saying that he could go in for Ole at Man United. So we've listed Ole Gunnar Solskjaer 18th out of 20. I would have Pochettino at 5th in this list.
I think I would have
him under Ancelotti, above Bielsa.
Yeah, I think that's exactly where, if you look at the guys that haven't won anything in the Premier League that are really exciting, like your Artetas, your Lampards, your Bielsas, Pochettino hasn't won anything either, but he's played a lot more in the Premier League and had some success with a team under-resourced in some way. So he'd definitely be a top of those ones for me. So he's best of the rest.
So if you're a Man United hierarchy and you know you've got a manager, surely they're having conversation about his days being numbered. I can't imagine that they're thinking, we've got our guy. Yeah. And we've got him down in 18th, but let's be honest, everyone knows Pochettino's going to be a better manager for Man United. Why aren't they doing it?
Yeah, it can only literally be the fact that they always wanted to be a club that backs their manager, and they've had to renege on that a few times recently now, and they just want to stick with it when he's one of their own.
It's weird that it's weird they would build a philosophy around backing their manager and not building philosophy around
winning football matches.
Exactly, like being the best football team they can be.
Yeah, well, it works for everyone else.
Makes you think maybe he's just a company man, maybe he's just a yes man. He says what he asks. You know, he is like that, isn't he? If they tell him what he's got to say, or go out in the interview and say it, doesn't really criticise the.
I mean, that's all well and good. It's all well and good being a yes man when there's some level of results. And I think Ollie's got away with having these little purple patches we spoke about. But yeah, Pochettino for me is right up there.
Where would Big Sam be in this list for you?
You know what I said about Big Sam. As top an 10? Effective manager, he's definitely the top 10 for me. Yeah, wow. Definitely. I'm talking about this.
Even now, still.
Well, here's what I'll say. Big Sam's objectives are never normally to qualify for top 4. They're never normally to win the league. They're normally to avoid relegation. He achieves those objectives. What other manager consistently meets their objectives? I'm not saying he does it excitedly. I'm not saying
if the team you were hiring for was to win the Champions League, you probably wouldn't take Big Sam. If it's to stay in the league, he'd be your first choice.
Yeah, probably would be my first choice on the track record. Now, he's been out of the game a little while now. It's a real shame we never got to see what he could do with England. Although what I'll say is this, in hindsight, it's not, because what Gareth's gone on to do and the young crop of players maybe don't suit an Allardyce model of football. However, I would have liked to have seen Big Sam have some of those more highly technically gifted players at his disposal, see what we could have done.
JJ Okocha back. But
ultimately, maybe it wasn't meant to be, Spen. Yeah. He was meant to be a relegation battler. And let me tell you right now, with the money in the Premier League now, if the likes of Palace or the likes of Aston Villa or West Brom are down there again, Big Sam's phone's going to be ringing.
You think he'll get another job in the Prem?
Could easily happen. Wouldn't back against it.
Let us know what you think about this video in the comments below. Do you think we've had a stinker, or do you think we've got it completely right? Probably not. I don't think anyone ever thinks we've got it completely right.
We haven't.
Subscribe for more. Seb's channel, of course, is Seb on Golf. Top quality golf videos. The link's in the description. Make sure you please drop over to that channel and click subscribe on Seb's great golf content. Until next time, we'll see you when you're older. Don't go changing.